but I'm a babysitter.
All right, I am going to call to order the meeting of the Parks and Facilities Focus Group. I'll pass around those. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any public comment? All right, no old business since this is the committee focus group's first meeting. So move on to new business. For those of you who haven't been in the meeting already, we need to appoint a group leader. The leader should be the person who prepares the agenda, minutes, and the report for your oversight committee that is your focus group. So anyone have any questions or any conversation or anything?
No, I have a motion to nominate Beth later.
I'll second. That was very voted last time.
If you can do it, if you can, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Because you know the most, you're the expert.
Generally, it does seem to fit into your.
Sure.
Sure. All right, so I have a motion by Art, second by Monroe. All those in favor?
I.
All opposed?
She's in favor, to clarify.
All right, do you want to take over the meeting, or I guess we should have modified that motion to be next meeting, or do you want to go ahead and
Next meeting.
next meeting? Okay, are you guys okay with?
Sure.
Thank you.
We clarified that in the other meeting, sorry.
Then motion to have that take effect at our next meeting. And for this meeting, Beth will be chairing the meeting.
For the next,
Okay.
for the next meeting?
For this meeting, you'll be chairing.
I'm not.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Georgia will chair this meeting and Beth will pick it up next meeting. Is that what you want to do,
Second.
Beth?
Okay, so Hart,
Motion.
Henning. All in favor? Okay. All right. Okay. Do we have any questions about like the minutes and agendas and that portion of it, since you haven't been in the meeting yet? I mean, you've done minutes. and
Right.
agendas,
They're pretty
so-
much the same as all the committee meetings.
Right.
That means you're doing it. You
Yes,
knew
sir.
that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And I will, you have a template for an agenda that I can
Okay.
send you
Yep.
to make sure. I don't know where you guys want to meet. We discussed the last committee, which that comes up a little bit later, but you know, you're housed in the building
Mhm.
that's all the way across town. It's
Right.
easier to coordinate people's schedules and hold it out. I mean, you have a small group, there's only one person missing from your group. I don't know what you guys leave that out, but I don't feel you have to be here to meet.
I'm fine. I would be fine meeting there. I mean, the last committee for what is it, affordable, accessible transportation is meeting at that facility.
Okay.
So is this the whole group?
Casey is
Casey's
unable to
missing.
make the first.
Well, I don't, I personally, I'm okay meeting here, meeting there.
What works with you?
Yeah, it doesn't, it's about equidistant, so.
So your next meeting would be the Thursday of Public Works, correct?
The next meeting is whenever you guys. as a
We're still
committee,
Okay.
determining.
or a focus group, not a committee.
Okay.
As a focus group decide.
Should we meet
I mean, we're
before?
kind of moving.
Both of you will be out at the highway department at that time, won't you? For
I will not.
the meeting though.
The August 8th meeting.
Yeah.
The August 8th meeting.
So we picked that date because it meets right before the Public Works.
Right.
Meeting, so I'm just,
Oh, okay, ours meets that Monday or Tuesday then.
so the previous, accessible transportation will meet at 4, so that Public Works can meet at 5.
Right, correct.
So I mean, we could,
Which is ZBA night.
Yeah, that is my ZBA night.
And I
That
know
sounds
that
like we're
Anthony-
loading that up.
But-
Is Anthony works till 5.
Yes.
Oh,
What-
wanted me to throw that in there.
What was Casey, what was her input, 5:30?
She works until 5, so anything after.
After 5:30, and was
Or
there,
5:30, I think is fine.
okay, was
She just
there,
didn't want to start at 5.
Right.
was there a day she had in mind?
I don't believe she said let me double check. I believe she just said,
Could we meet before planning and development next month?
in August.
Is that okay, or would you want to, I mean,
Well, planning and development
it's Monday nights. at
is a
6:30.
Monday night. And the 8/8 date
It's a Thursday.
is a Thursday. Oh, that's before nursing. So.
Or
this would-
before Public Works, which is.
Just
Or
for-
public
Right.
works, yeah, to me, nursing, to you, public works.
She did not specify a date. She said, I work until at least 5, so as long as it's after that. And I mean, even if it's, I mean, you come to planning and development, but just because I have to have the doors open to the public at 6 o'clock, you're a small enough group, you can meet in the room next door at 5:30, allowing her. you know.
Right.
I mean, I don't want, I'm just,
Well, our first meeting is 8/8. At 4 o'clock, correct?
Correct.
And you would like to meet before planning and development? Beth?
I can, I'm flexible. Right now I do have physical therapy on Mondays, but I think in August I'll be done. So is it okay if we hold off until August?
I think so. I think some are meeting next week already to try to get something, but we talked last one about getting data so that we can make,
Sure.
yeah, those long-term decisions, but I guess that makes sense to me.
What date is our August planning and development? Is that the 12th?
That would be the 5th.
the 5th. The 12th is fine.
Okay. So our board meeting is the 15th,
Correct.
and so that would be Monday, the 5th.
Yes.
Our P and D is 6:30, so 5:30.
That would work for me.
Yeah.
If we want to do it sooner, we can schedule a date sometime in July. It's totally up to you.
Well, do we want to jot that down but not vote on it yet until we go through
Sure.
strategies and measures?
We were kind of jumping ahead, but
Yeah.
that's why I was like.
Okay.
Now, I know the other committees, again, just kind of including people who's catching Beth up because she hasn't sat in a
Yeah,
committee
sorry.
yet today. Discussion on the key strategies and the performance measures. You know, these are what were put together by Mr. Dragney as part of the strategic planning. You know, some of the things like, you know, the community safety, in order to kind of move forward on some of the things, we wanted to get a baseline, hence why, you know, they're meeting a little bit quicker to get something going. Some of the things, you know, are more of a support role. It does look like some of this is stuff that we should get maybe at least discussed and approved through budget season with, for funding park recreation infrastructure maintenance, which, you know, Beth and I we've actually been working on a lot of this the past probably 3-4 months. With Mr. Rummers and things. So some of this is already kind of moving, but just keep in mind the budget calendar and budget policy and where we're at timeframe with that.
I'm having a brain burp. Did we go through the rest of the agenda before the new business? Did
Yes.
we vote on all of that?
The only thing that we voted on was the approval of the agenda, and I have that Monroe made a motion, Hart seconded. There was a vote, 0.
And there's number 3, there's no one here, so there's no public comments. Number 4 is there's no old business because it's our first meeting. So I just put it on the record that we,
Oh,
okay. And then okay, so Beth is our leader. And then we can just do a very brief report to the Property and Safety Committee before they meet next time, just saying that we elected Beth. We've had our first meeting, and when our next meeting is scheduled, when we come to that. And then you go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
I am doing this.
Right back where I mean,
Discussion of key strategies. Okay.
'cause I
And
know Mr. Madero said we always set that appointment, but maybe we should look at the strategies to see if we need to meet
If there's anything
prior
we need to do immediately versus,
That's the only thing that I would say is just with the, and Mr. Rummers has been updating us, me weekly. He'll have a monthly report for P and D with just what he's been doing, over
He's
the
been stopping in my office. as well. Yeah.
I know he's been updating
In and
me
out,
as well.
yes.
And he has some ideas of equipment that
Mhm.
may be needed to maintain the boat landings. and-
Right.
So
you got the lawnmower, I think, as I recall.
that would, yeah, he was able to get the landings mowed this past month, but not without some things that
Yeah, he
should be
was,
looked.
right.
Well, we
Yeah,
acquired
the barn
that
equipment and-
piece of equipment.
It was something that was purchased a couple of years ago. He was just
Oh.
able to make it work.
Oh, I
For
see.
the time being.
Okay.
Right.
So
And then, Mr. Remmers is working on the first, this says strategy, but that's not a strategy. That's just an evaluation.
well, no, number one, he is not working on because he does not, the sheriff has his own facilities person. So the 3 buildings that the sheriff has statutorily under his purview, that would be information you'd have to get from that facilities person.
And his 3 facilities are the jail,
Courthouse and the public safety
the
building. the old jail.
courthouse.
We call it PSB. It has the coroner, the morgue in it.
What do you call
PSB, public safety building.
it? Oh,
But it has the morgue and 911. I mean, it's got some dispatch and I don't know what else all is over there. But those are the three physical locations.
Isn't there a desk there if someone walked in, if they were looking for the sheriff? Isn't that where they would go?
No, his office is on the 3rd floor.
Well, I know his office is, but would I wonder if people walk into that
They do.
building.
Yeah, sure they do. And I'm sure
There's
they're
a
told,
window and,
To come,
Yes.
yeah, there's a window and they probably.
Yeah.
send them
Oh, yeah.
over.
Yeah. There's a reception, like not a reception, but you walk in and there's a window.
There's someone
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah. It's a
Okay.
man. It's a
Okay.
man building. There's quite a few people in the building.
And I think they leave the squad cars in that lot and have roll calls there from that building, I think.
I don't know.
Someone told
I'm
me
unaware
that.
of that. Would not know.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter, I guess. Okay, so as far as the first one then, we have Wally Remmers information right now. Are you saying we need
Are
to
you saying for the buildings and facilities?
evaluate all buildings and
I
facilities?
would say that is not at all what Wally has done in the last few months. Wally has done the parks and boat landings, the park and landings, public.
Okay.
Now, there is, reports for the physical structures
Mhm.
that are liability and auditing firms
Mhm.
have as far as depreciation and equipment and maintenance and things like that, but that would not fall.
Condition, effective use.
The nursing center has a maintenance, measure.
Okay, so we need to capture this information on this committee then. What's been done with that, those evaluations and reports. So that should be our first order of business, I would think, or no? Anyone else? Or not?
So you'd like to see the reports from the sheriff's department and from the
I do.
nursing?
I'd like to see the evaluation. The first thing there is, again, if it's being done, I'd like to see what's been done this far.
Because there is no action items pertaining to these, just don't get too far into
Right.
deciding what's gonna happen, the next agenda could be prioritizing and getting reports.
Okay.
It's just, I just had to get something
Sure.
very
Yeah.
generic on the agendas to get the meetings rolling, so.
So maybe one of our first things should be to collect what data already exists to not only
Sure.
have it, but then to figure out where the gaps are. 'Cause I'm
Collecting
sure,
and distributing to committee members.
because I'm sure there is a building or somewhere that's not being,
Right.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Let's get what's been done, figure out what needs to be done and what this looks like, Otherwise, we're flying blind.
It does feel like that information would help with strategies 2 and 3 as well.
Definitely, because then we'll see what's being funded now and what will need to be funded in the long range.
Right. And we'll go back to, this says building facilities, but this is parks and facilities. Are we talking buildings, all the buildings in the county? Key strategies, evaluate all building facilities.
So I think 1 talks about the physical buildings, part 3 talks about the parks, recreations, infrastructures.
Sure.
So we are talking the
Everything.
building facilities
Yeah.
and then the parks.
Yeah, that's my only my
Okay.
interpretation from being in the meetings and.
Well, unless something comes up in one of these other subcommittees. where
Well, I think it
see
makes,
something.
I think it makes sense. And when we were in strategic planning, we did talk about them all collectively, but I think it makes sense to have them kind of their each own item because they're gonna require different approaches.
Right.
No, I was just curious if perhaps parks and facilities were
Sure.
somewhere other than the other buildings that are in parks and facilities. And the answer is no, that is not the case. They're all here.
Just a quick
Well, the
question.
buildings would be the first one. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
See what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
if there was a difference.
In other words, the courthouse is not part of parks and facilities. The
Right.
monument is not.
But I
So
think this
we're,
encompasses.
right, I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying in my own.
And looking at the other ones, yeah, that's the only,
Okay, good.
that would encompass.
Are we going to have the highway department buildings? Because that's
Says
never
all buildings.
discussed, so I don't recall ever having a conversation about maintenance at the highway department. I know Dale just,
It's come up in public works meetings.
okay, that's what I'm been.
But technically it should probably be in public property safety because it's property.
Yeah, it's,
But I know maintenance, I know when there was a leak in the roof a couple
yes.
years ago and things, I know those were all discussed in
Okay,
I think.
looking at it as a whole, maybe.
Well, either everything falls under the purview of this subcommittee or it does not. The nursing home, same thing. Does that belong in the nursing home
The
committee?
physical.
Well, we deal with that
So the physical structure, I think, would fall in this.
here, right?
But other things involving it would fall in health and social services because that addresses
The nursing.
Right.
staffing
Right.
and care and
Right.
APH and those sorts of things.
So for now, let's operate under the assumption that all of our buildings, facilities, parks and properties are here.
well, and it seems worth pointing out, as I'm sure it'll be brought up in all of these, subcommittee meetings, these are more steering and support, operations, so just, I think you're probably right, like, we probably have some say and some input, but that doesn't necessarily mean we get to remodel the whole thing.
And I
No,
don't think
we have no say.
Yeah,
These are advisory.
right,
These are advisory.
and I think that's worth keeping in mind.
Yeah,
Oversight,
I'm just wondering what's in
Yeah.
the purview, but
Committee
we have no
structure.
authority.
committee
we
structure
report-
stands as far
Yes.
as the way the department heads, but I think it's a good way for, like you said earlier, you don't sit on public works, so you don't know about the road
Right,
plan and you
right.
don't, I think it's involving in these groups to better
Right.
educate, inform, and support, because
Right.
at the board level, you may not be inclined to support something because you don't know as much about it.
Right.
Because it's not in your committees.
Right.
And that's, so.
Yeah, I agree, and that was part of this whole process. Part of this was for people that normally aren't, like myself, on the last subcommittee.
Mhm.
I'm the only person that isn't in that venue already. You know, so it's good to have that interdisciplinary and I don't know. Anyway, you're right, I agree with you.
I love it. That's
Always so much easier.
I don't know if we're
Yeah.
ready to talk about the fourth strategy, but I guess I wouldn't even know where to begin to, like, who could effectively evaluate that. That where would we go? Jim, that seems kind of up your alley more than.
Well, I'd go back up to use the long-term facility plan to engage partners in external funding opportunities. I don't think, just to clarify, I don't think we can address that until we get the first one and see where we are. We wouldn't know who to talk to or what to do in that regard until we have one. Key strategies. I'm looking at use the long-range facility plan. The first
Oh,
one,
the second one.
evaluate.
Okay.
Yeah, and the second, in other words, we can't even talk about that because we don't know where we are with it.
Right, I think.
And I honestly think, maybe reaching out to department heads, even if they're not on this
Right,
committee,
right.
involving them in the conversation, or
Mhm.
even the former department heads, Mr. Rummers.
Mhm.
Well, and if you look at the
Game-
owner, yeah.
Yeah, and the department.
Right.
Good point.
I think, as I look at that number two thing, the only thing that comes to my mind is the building we're sitting in, which we don't own, but we rent. Their apartment. What that means, I don't know, but it's the only partner that comes to mind. The only other one is I'm thinking about it. It's just,
Well, and I
the Friends of the Pack.
I was just gonna say,
Right.
my mind goes more towards the landings in the park
Right.
with grants for the monument
Right.
in front of the courthouse.
Right.
There were grant funding opportunities, boat landings.
Right.
the
I'm just
special
thinking
interest groups. Friends of the
People
Park.
outside of our
Right.
county that have some input or intervention or activity with us.
Yeah, that's, with the offices, the departments and offices that are in this building. That's, in the lease, so it's.
I'm not saying we need to do anything
No,
with it.
yeah.
I'm just saying it's an entity that is in the subgroup in number two, Friends of the Pack, and I don't know who else at the
Well,
parks.
Great Newport Partnership does a lot with tourism
Okay,
grants.
yep.
They do a lot with
Mhm.
economic development, trail systems,
Mhm.
draw for employers,
And the Black Hawk Monument.
Black
I think
Hawk
there's a separate-
Monument, the monument in front of the courthouse. I mean, those, that you recall, or either of you, when they dedicated and put Liberty up on top of, that was quite the, that was
About 8 years ago, maybe.
was up here when it happened, so since late 2018? 6-ish, 5.5?
See, I spoke at the rededication and I didn't think my daughter was born yet.
Oh.
Maybe.
Was
Are you
Liberty
talking
replaced?
this monument or,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gotta be at least 6-7 years ago.
I wish.
So now, okay, so I just wanted to back up a second. I'm sorry. I'm in charge of digressions. Assess and develop plan and funding for ongoing park rec infrastructure maintenance and replacement. Well, again, we're kind of back to number one, right? Let's
Yeah.
figure out where we are.
That's one where Wally can have a lot of input, it seems.
And, you know, you can even invite them to the meeting then, you know, hey, do you have input on this? Or
Right.
give me your opinion on some of these things. A lot of that, again, this initial meeting is to kind of get the ball rolling, people moving in the same direction and highlighting what you want as action items on the next agenda.
So who do we get, other than Wally, who's dealt more with the landings and the parks? Who do we get the building facility information from?
Seth Shelley is the maintenance director at the nursing home. It's Tony's courthouse. I can't think of his name.
But he's the maintenance director
He's
of
the
the
maintenance
courthouse.
director. So there's staff at the jail and the courthouse, and they handle all three physical buildings. But I would say reach out to Sheriff Stonewall, and I'm sure he has all the reports because he presents them at budget time with what maintenance needs to come up. And so, yeah, I would reach out to Sheriff Stonewall or.
Okay, so who's gonna do that? I can do that.
Well, thank you. I was gonna delegate you.
We all have to pitch in.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean, Kirk was handling some of that from our last meeting.
Sure.
And Adam was handling the stuff in Highland. I'll be happy to call the sheriff and just ask him for the building facilities, reports and plans, you know, but. Okay.
Maintenance plans or, yeah.
Yeah, whatever he's got on the buildings. Yeah, and that would be, he can handle the courthouse too. He just has someone separate doing that, it sounds like.
I mean, he has
That's Tony.
maintenance staff,
For
the
this.
courthouse, the jail.
Well, I'll call the sheriff.
I mean, they all report to the sheriff, right?
Okay, well, let me start there. You know, we may find that we may go some places and not get what we're looking for or
Right.
think that we should have had. And then the nursing home, I can make a call on that too. Yeah, talk to Steph, see what he's
I'll
got.
ask Dale,
For the
see if he
highway.
has anything.
Oh, great.
Both well, there's several highway buildings. so.
Right, I was gonna say plus the
Yeah.
sheds and the
Right,
maintenance.
yep.
Yep.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so that takes care of it. So we're down to point 4, strategy 4 as it's called. Evaluate the cost benefit of a maintenance director position versus contracted maintenance services. Well, again, I think we need to gather this information first.
I don't think you're gonna address all of them in the first meeting. I
No,
think it's kind of a
No,
continuum.
I think we're fact finding.
Yep.
I think on both of these subcommittees, would you agree, Adam?
Yeah.
You know, this is just, let's build a foundation of facts first, so. Okay. Beth? What do you think about these performance measures, Georgia?
You know, I think it's
Premature?
getting the cart before the horse till you get the information, because you can't really, you gotta figure out where you're at before you can
Right.
see how far you've
Before
moved
you know
or how
where
you
you're
can,
going.
yeah.
The plus is I would love to have a long range plan for our parks, our
Right.
landings.
Right.
There, it's, right now it's up in the air. Who puts in the boat docks? Who does this? We know who does it.
Right.
But it's always questions about what are we doing with this one? What are we doing with that one?
Right.
So in the long term, it'd be nice to have a plan going forward.
Absolutely. I know in P&D, we've had inexplicably heated discussions about who's gonna mow the lawn
Right.
and whether we're gonna empty garbage,
Yes,
whose garbage can it is.
right.
You know, I mean, so we seem to be in an infancy of, you know, it's like 3-year-olds with a claw hammer.
It was like back in the day, I remember when Mr. Groves was handling it, when he was in the office. It was easy, but times are changing now where we're getting people that are abusing, oh, there's garbage receptacles. I'm gonna bring my garbage from my home,
Right.
my car, whatever.
Chicken night, yeah.
Exactly, you know, so, yes. We need a plan going forward, I believe.
And obviously, a big part of that problem was we didn't have anyone emptying.
Right.
You know, you can't just put a garbage can out and
Right.
self-maintaining.
The garbage cans weren't put there by the county,
Right.
even though it was on county land.
Huh.
So
I've
then it was
seen-
someone else's group that decided that,
Right.
but then the county would get the complaints.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I've
there's a
honestly
lot
seen-
of,
But the other option is, so you don't put garbage out in your facilities. That's
so
not a good answer
I
either.
have
the
seen
one
those.
dock that does not have
Two of
garbage
them.
cans, there's no litter.
Aiden's Landing, Mr. Remmers would like to have a garbage can there. I'm kind of against that right now. We've not seen any garbage issues down there, and the one in Winslow,
Is
no
spotless.
garbage issues.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So I think people, if they don't
The what?
see.
Say it again.
That's fascinating.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's,
it
and
is.
it, I mean, had I not gone and toured I've been to every facility twice now so far this year, since the season opened,
Right.
and I mean, the one in Winslow is beautiful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's probably the best taken care of,
Mhm.
and there is not a garbage receptacle
Mhm.
on the county landing.
And then one time I can say I've gone to Aiden's Landing just to, when we're out doing inspections, there was somebody who took their garbage, tied it up in like a Walmart bag and set it in the crook of a tree, so it wasn't gonna blow away or anything, which you could have taken that with you, but at least it was
At least it was
respectable.
respectable.
To a
And it was
certain-
in the tree, like,
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we can count on people to be respectful or
No,
do the right thing.
not at all.
And I think if we're gonna have public properties as a county, to not have a receptacle is ludicrous to me.
I mean, it's.
I mean, you ever go to a nice park and not have garbage cans? Really?
Mhm.
You tell me where those are. I'm not being confrontational. I'm just saying I'm not negating what you're saying.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
people,
I'm just saying, this is what
Right,
That's
I've gone to several
Right.
facilities in Wisconsin. when we
whether
used to
it's
vote, they
Winslow
wouldn't have
Township picking it
garbage.
up and
They
cleaning
do
it up,
not
I have no
understand.
idea.
They do
But
not have
what I'm
garbage
saying is
cans.
the one with that.
Boat landings, anything like that I've been to
What?
in my past. Several facilities in Wisconsin, when we were voting, several facilities when we UTV. You pack it in, you pack it out. There's signs everywhere.
oh, and it says,
Bring it in,
that.
bring it out.
Yep.
well,
And maybe that's an option.
that's an
Right.
option. You know,
I mean,
just not,
it's things that.
not doing anything,
Right,
but ignoring the garbage in the cans or taking the garbage out.
right.
Whose garbage cans they ever end up being? Do we know?
They were put in by friends.
Yes, a
So they own,
Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout.
so they own the garbage cans.
I'm assuming
Right.
so. I think they were just given to the county. I'm not 100% sure.
It's not like we ever got a
Right,
notice that we were.
Right.
Being given them or,
Right.
it's one of those inconsistencies.
Exactly.
You know,
Well,
three different people trying to.
it's just
Right.
management. If we want to try not to have garbage cans, then let's
Then
do
we need
signage.
signage or, you know,
If
then.
we're
you
not gonna do signage, and that's a bad look, I think, then you gotta do garbage cans, but then you have to have someone pick them up
And
regularly.
then we need to budget. So
Life's
there's
all
the
about
budget.
choices. I say screw the Eagle Club people, the Eagle Scouts, screw them and their garbage cans. You know, we just throw them out of there. And, do you think that's what all the members would say publicly? Probably, right?
You need to read my bio, Jim.
Especially in a debate, right? Yeah, throw that Eagle, Smeagol.
But I mean, and, you know, not saying it's not a good
Right.
project. I think it was probably done with the thought they were doing it for Friends of the Peck, not even knowing Friends of the Peck do not
right,
control the landing.
right.
It's just, you know,
And that's where we need to have, they seem like they think they control it, but then when there's an issue, it gets thrown back onto the county. How are you going to fix this? You know, they're the ones that are, and they do a
They do a
lot of
lot.
great work with them.
Absolutely.
And I'm not,
And the county does the same thing.
right,
Well, how about the Friends of the Peck? You know, aren't they doing this? Or, you know, so you got two parties pointing their finger at
Right.
one another. You know, my only point has always been, we're the property.
Mhm.
And, you know, I just saw a video today from Greater Freeport Partnership on UTVs going through the woods and talking about the trails and whatnot. Either you're in or you're out.
Mhm.
If that's something that adds to the community and is placemaking and
you
generates
should come sit in on the meeting.
I
We're gonna
and
have
generates
potatoes soon.
something and
I
generates
can
something
talk on
positive.
that for hours because
Well-
we're taking this weekend, not to get off track,
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, from Die Hard. It's supposed to rain like all day long. We're going up to the UP of Michigan and northern Wisconsin to
cool.
ride all weekend
Right,
in the rain.
right.
I'm not
But
really
again,
thrilled about the rain.
but if you're gonna advertise it and you're gonna do it, then you need to groom the trails.
Yep.
You need to empty garbage, you need to be a responsible property owner. Or don't do it.
Right.
You know, because I've been to some of the landings and whatnot last year. And I was very disappointed at what I saw at the Black Hawk Memorial,
Really?
very disappointed.
Has it been?
And I still am. I
Really?
mentioned it to Wally. You know, when I was there last year, I reserved a thing. That happened perfectly with Nate. Did a great job on the
Oh, with
electronic
the QR. code.
reservation. I was very impressed. And even I was able to do it. So you know how much work he put into making it easy enough for me. So that was great. But then when I got there, I couldn't open the doors. There are no handles on some of the garage door things. It's just a carport kind of thing. Some of those are broke and not functioning. The other ones don't have handles, which apparently was intentional. The fireplace had the metal pieces from the old ones that Wally had replaced and just left there. Well, that's not going to burn up in the fire. That's just garbage. The sandbox had no sand, and there's nails protruding from the roof about this high. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, that's
How they got shut.
that's
certain, because
so my point.
Wally opens it every spring and closes
Right.
it.
Well, he tried to explain it to me, and I said, "Well, just tear it down. If it's going to be dangerous, it's like some of the play equipment. If it's going to be dangerous, just get rid of it. You know, you can't leave things there. From a risk management perspective, that drives me nuts. Some kid's going to climb in there and jump up, you know, and be skewered. That's just stupid. Anyone, you know, I'm sorry, but you know, if you leave that in that state, you deserve to be sued. Makes me want to go get my law degree. But the doors won't open. It was not good. And the lawn wasn't mowed. Now I think a lot of that's been repaired now. I was personally offended that
Township, I think does.
Highway does.
Highway.
Mowing
Yeah.
out there.
we do that. I was personally offended that the gold stars for half the dead soldiers aren't there. They were taken down when some things were done and no one ever bothered to put them back up. That's just not the way to run a business. It was very disappointing.
Do we
Some of the
still have gold
landings
stars?
were very disappointing. What?
Did Wally say if he still has the gold stars?
He thought he did. I'm sure there's still, I'll bet how much money you got that they're still not there.
Anyway, I don't think we're kind of straying away
Yeah.
from agenda items here, so.
No, we're on parks and facilities and I'm done. But yes,
I
you're
think we're
right.
straying away from the meaning of. Anyway, so
Remember what
we were on 5.3 because we said
Okay.
that the progress measures are a little premature at this point till we
Right.
have the baseline information. So I think we have a plan moving forward as far as getting the information before the group members, the focus group members, and trying to plan the next meeting at a time that the fourth member will be able to
Right.
attend. Did you decide small room here? Or
Would
at
that
the highway department?
We didn't decide.
But,
Is it okay? Would you
I
be
bet-
okay with, I mean, Mr. Hart's already here for P and D.
I can-
Would that
I
be
can do
okay?
And so you would have to be.
And I
there
would
for
be here for
committee.
that.
yeah, I can, that's fine.
Just so I know to reserve the room for you.
Right. Could we, this Monday, I would not be available, unfortunately.
August. That's too
On
many.
Is that-
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
All right, so we have the scheduled meeting. I think you guys know what Ms. Henning will need to put on as far as action items and include in packet materials. I've kind of been leaving it up to each group, get your packets together, get them sent out, but make sure you get me the agenda so that I can post.
You may get a few questions from me since,
Absolutely. I'm more than open to the
Sorry.
call. Mr. Monroe and I are going to meet at some point and walk them through all that. But, if you get the information to me and want me to put out the packets, that's fine. Otherwise, if not, you're gonna be sending it out yourselves, that's fine too. I just need the agendas
Right.
to make sure they get posted. And try to give me a little bit of leniency with the time, because I would love to not get, Mr. Montrose at 1 o'clock and go over to the courthouse, and then at 3:30 get Beth's and have to run back
Right.
over to the
There
courthouse.
should be at
So-
least, right, you have to have everything to me by this time if you're going to.
And once all the meetings, take place, I'll get with the group leaders, the focus group leaders, to make sure I get everything, so. And if you are posting out the highway, maybe or if you are meeting, well, sounds like it'll be here, but if the group does meet out at the highway, make sure that Brian Pate gets a copy, because he does the physical posting on the building out there, so. Just be mindful of the people's time commitments and stuff. So, all right, I think we have a plan, right? Because we can.
Yes.
All right, any public comment? No public comment? Do I have a
already
motion?
did that.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
All right, the next meeting will be on August 5th at 5:30 PM. On the 7th floor, small conference room.